have a second camera. So those of you who have never painted on glass before, there are a lot of benefits to painting on glass. You could buy a million painted glasses that say, you know, hand done in the stores. A lot of them are painted with acrylic paints. A lot of them say hand wash only. I'm going to show you the materials that I use and the way to do it, and bake it at the end. And then the glasses become top rack dishwasher safe. I have had these two glasses. These are my like two favorite wine glasses that I use all the time. I painted these probably.
Can you move them over so we can?
There you go.
Okay.
Put them over in this camera too. I probably painted these two glasses something like 6 years ago, at least. I wash them every week because I drink wine every week. And those are the glasses I use. So if it's done right and you use the right materials, it'll last a really long time. And the possibilities are endless. It doesn't have to be drinking glasses. I have votives, and you know, you can see that in the other camera. I have done the same patterns. Here's one. It's a peacock glass. I'll put it down in front of the other camera. I have done that peacock pattern in like little vases. I've done it in martini glasses. I have done a whole series. I don't know if you can see this. I'll bring it up close to the camera. It's a whole series of glasses in animal prints. I've done leopard and giraffe and the peacock and tiger stripes and all kinds of things. I used to sell them. I don't do it anymore, just because I've been focusing on my oil paintings and it takes up a lot of time. And honestly, you can't sell them for a lot of money. People expect to not pay more than $15 for a glass. So I do them for myself and I do them for friends. But again, the possibilities are endless. Sometimes I just find random things, random glass pieces at the store. This is this little, you know, cork top bottle that I did. I've done tall vases. I've done Christmas patterns, all kinds of things, beachy patterns. So I'm going to show you a couple of different things today. I'm going to start with, I'm going to turn off this camera and I'm going to start with the materials, and I'll lay the things out and explain all about exactly how to use it. And I'm going to demonstrate particular paint strokes, and I will go through one particular glass. If does anybody have the materials and intend to follow along at all? You're all just watching. Okay, that's fine too. Because I was going to say that's okay, because I'm going to do a lot of things on my glass, my blank glass, as I go along, and I'm just going to wipe it, because while it's still wet, I can just wipe it off and keep going. And then I'm going to do a finished pattern on one of them. All right, so I'm going to get out of this one. Let's see. Get out of this one. Wow. All right, focus on my other camera, because I'm going to put everything over here.
Well, it's front and center, Laura.
We could only see, at least I could only see one. The other one was so small that I really
Yeah.
couldn't see much in
I
it.
know, I'm trying to get out of this one, but why am I not able to get out of this? Usually at the top, it says leave.
Well, you're just up at the top like everybody else. And
I know, but I want to get the other camera on the main screen.
You are.
Can everybody?
Yeah, your other, the picture with your paints and your glasses and stuff, that's big. That's central right now.
Okay, good. All right. So the materials, let's start with the paints. There are 3 different brands out there. Folk Art, Americana, and Deco Art. Americana is a satin finish. The other 2 are glossy. So I try not to intermingle them because it's just that the finish is a little different, but you can. Also, you have to be careful. They're called enamels. That's what you have to look for. And the benefit of using enamel paint is when it's done, you bake it in the oven, just like you would glazed ceramics, only you don't need a kiln. You use your own oven. The Deco Art and the Americana, those use, it says to use 325 degrees. The Folk Art says to use 350 degrees. I have done glasses because I didn't have the right colors with Deco Art and Folk Art together. And I simply used the higher temperature and it worked out fine. But, you know, look at the instructions on the ones that you buy. You know, they'll tell you you have to let it basically sit for anywhere from an hour to 4 days. This one says 4 days. This Folk Art says an hour. The Deco Art says a day or something. So if you're mixing them together, err on the side of the longer amount of time to, you know, wait and before you bake it. As far as the best brushes to have, a good round brush with a fine tip. I use a number 4 for almost everything because as long as it has a fine tip, you can do a lot with it. You know, you press down, you're going to get a wider stroke. I have a couple of flats. The flat brushes come in handy, as I'll show you, for a lot of things. So I have here about a 1/4 inch one and a 1/8 of an inch one. I also have an angled one that comes in handy, but you don't have to have an angled one. And a liner comes in handy for a lot of things too. As far as we go along, you will see that for some things, especially like filling in larger objects, like this is one that I started, I'm going to demonstrate today, this lemon, because it's such a large object. The paints don't, like you can't just paint in a large area with the brush and not see strokes. So I do it a couple of ways in a large area. This one I outlined, and then I used some kind of sponge. You can use just house sponges that you cut. These are just natural sponges. You could also use a scumbler in small areas. A scumbler might come in handy for something like little grapes or, you know, other kind of berries that are large. So those are things that are good to have. It's also necessary to have alcohol because you need to clean the glass, and that helps everything to stick. If there's any oils from your hands on the glass, it might not be successful and it might not fuse to the glass properly when you bake it. So you have to make sure that you clean your glass. Wood sticks. Okay, this is an orange stick. And this one just has like a little point on it. These are good for cleaning edges as you go along. You know, if you're not getting, you know, everything exactly a smooth edge as you like, you could go in and clean the edge like that. Also, I'll show you an example. I have a bunch of pictures here. Here's a pattern that I used. So this sand dollar, I outlined and sponged in the colors, and then I took an orange stick and pushed away the holes. And that worked out really nicely to show the pattern of the sand dollar. So you kind of figure these things out as you go along. Other objects that are handy to have to make things like little dots. You can use the point of a stick like this to make little dots. You can use these blenders, you know, the blending stumps or the tortillons. You can use Q-tips. So there's a lot of things around your house. You don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of things. You can find, you know, the edge of a paper clip you can make tiny little dots with. There's things around the house that you'll find come in handy. That's about it for the materials. Oh, one more thing. Metallics. If you want to add a little sparkle to your glasses, the metallics are not recommended for anything that you use for food. So if you're going to use them, they bake and fuse exactly the same as the other ones, but save the metallics for things like vases and candle holders. Oh, and I didn't show these. You can also make, this will be fun for the holidays too. You can make ornaments. I've done that peacock pattern in every possible thing imaginable. And I did put some sparkle on these because obviously they're not going in anybody's mouth. At least I hope not. All right, so now I'm going to get into basic strokes. I have some water here. I'm going to, before I start, just dampen my brush a little bit and then blot it. You don't really want it drippy wet. You want to use the paint, you know, pretty much straight out of the bottle. You don't want to thin it at all.
So
Okay.
the enamel paint is not oil-based.
It is not oil-based, it's water-based.
Okay.
Yep. So I prepared this little palette with a bunch of colors. Now you'll notice I have like 3 greens, I have like 3 yellows, I have a warm white and a cool white, I have a couple of blues and browns. The reason for that, and I'll show you as we go along, is that it's nice to load your brush with 2 different colors. And I'm going to show an example of that. All right. So if I take, actually, I'm not even going to use the angled one. I'm going to use a flat one to make it a little more obvious with my white flat. Take the flat brush, dry it off. Okay. And I'm going to load one end with a deep magenta, and I'm going to load the other end with a lighter pink. Okay. Just like lightly blot it so it's not too. And then this is one of the strokes, okay? As you press down, kind of fan it out, and then kind of come to a point. Now, I'll do a little flower with that. And you see how I'm getting the 2 colors on there? I'm gonna redip. Let me move this out of the way. This is why I put this clean piece of wood here so that you could see it nice and cleanly. All right, now you have that pretty little flower, kind of like a pansy-like flower. So, you know, it's a matter of pressing down and then pulling up toward, you know, the sharp edge of it. You can do leaves like this. You can do flowers like this. You can do ribbon. You know, if you wanted to do a pattern of ribbon, say, you know, all the way around the edge. Oh, speaking of edge, you don't want to get more than about a ½ inch from the edge for drinking purposes. You know, you can, first of all, you can scrape up the paint. It is okay for food surfaces. So that's just sort of like a extra little safety issue that I like to keep. I'm going to wipe this off now because I'm going to show you some other things. Okay, that was one simple stroke. Let's see, long blades of grass and other types of longer leaves. You can also load your brush. I'm using a round brush now, and I'm going to load this brush by just kind of flipping it over and putting a lighter green on the opposite side. Okay, and I'm going to start by pressing it down, right? And then pull up. Oh, I got a little blob there. I should have cleaned my brush. I'm just going to fix that. Okay, again, press down and pull up. All right, you can do, for instance, I'm going to show, this is a stem, right? And then I'm going to take a lighter green on there. And you can do a type of leaf like that. It kind of gets narrower as it goes up. I don't know if you could all see that. All right, so there's all different kinds of things that you could do with the different brushes. You can go over, say I did this and I want to add some yellow to it. You cannot add a color until this color dries. It's best to wait, and it really will be dry to the touch in 5 to 10 minutes. As long as it's dry to the touch, then you can add another color over it. But I wouldn't do that right now. All right. Let's see. You can do, if I wanted to do like a daisy. Again, I would use the round brush and just kind of a simple press down and pull up. I'm going to load a little orange on there so it's more obvious. Some of my mics have gotten a little thick because I haven't been using them as much. All right, so I have like a little kind of daisy or sunflower looking thing, and I'm going to take one of these stumps. I'm going to press it in. I'm going to use the magenta just to make it really obvious. And you could just do, you know, a bunch of dots in the middle to make that look more like, you know, the center of a flower or the stamen and everything. I like using the stumps to give you a nice clean edge, and, you know, you wipe them off as you go, and then you can use that again for a different color once it's dry. I want to show you how to do big solid objects. So I have this pattern. I'll show you the pattern. I sketched it out. First, I'm going to clean off this glass so I could use this again. And by the way, I had already wiped down this glass with alcohol before we started. So make sure you do that. I can't emphasize that enough. All right, so here's a sketch I did with the 2 lemons and some leaves. The benefits of working with glass too is you can take your sketch and put it right inside your glass. Now, if I didn't make a couple of slices, I took a scissor and I made a couple of slices all around the edge, and that kind of bends the shape a little bit so that it fits in there nicely, and I could press it against the inside of my glass. All right, so I put it back in here, a little Scotch tape just to keep it in place. Now I'm going to do the other lemon to show you how I did that one. I'm going to take my liner this time to do a nice thin outline. I'll take the medium yellow. All right, so now I got a nice outline. This leaf is going over the lemon, so I'm just gonna lightly, very thinly outline that area too. All right, clean off my brush. And I'm gonna take a sponge to fill that in. Now, I'm gonna load my brush. I'm using an edge of it that is a sharp point. And I'm going to load it with the lightest yellow to start. I can always add deeper color later, right? I have a paper towel here that I'm just kind of dabbing things on so I don't get too thick. I don't want to gob it on. By the way, as I'm going, my fingers are getting all over this glass. So if I was painting all around to the outside, the back edge of this glass, I mean, I try and hold it from the edges, but I have my fingers on the back. So if I was going to paint back here, I'd go back and wipe it with a little alcohol. All right, so now I have the lightest yellow on there. I'm just going to dab that off of my sponge. And I'm going to take some deep orange on there. Now, in this case, I don't necessarily have to wait until it's completely dry because I'm kind of mixing the colors together to create some shade. And I do want it, you know, to be kind of blended and soft, so. So it's just like you were stippling. More of the golden yellow. I might even take a tiny bit of brown. I'm really gonna dab that. So you know how the lemon has that little like indented piece at the end? Create a little shadow there. All right, I'm going to clean that one off. Actually, I'm just going to grab another one to make it easy. And I'm going to take some warm white. And create a nice bright highlight on there. There you go. You got a lemon. I already did a couple of stems. I'll do a leaf to show you. And then there's another pattern that I wanted to do for you today to demonstrate a different type of stroke and different type of filling in large areas. So let me work on one of these leaves. I'm going to use the angled flat for that. And again, I'm going to load 2 different greens. One on each end. We'll dab it a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to start at the edge with the dark end of the point, and I'm going to press out. I'm kind of creating that little look of the veins. Just trying to think of the right word for that. All right, now I'm kind of happy with that leaf, but I have a couple of areas that went out. I don't know if you can see that it kind of went outside and it's a little sloppy over here. And I'm going to take my orange stick, and that's what that's for. And I'm just going to wipe that right off with the orange stick to make a nice smooth edge there. This will also work for a while after it's dried. You can't use the orange stick after you've baked it, but even after the paint dries, you can still use it. So I've got a nice, it's a little thick there, so I'm going to use this to kind of thin that spot out too, a little bit. Too much, I had too much water on there. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with that leaf. All right, so I've showed you a couple of leaves. Maybe I'll just do one more of these leaves. I'll do that big fat one at the top. Okay, again, make sure I don't have drippy water on my brush. Load it up. I'm using, I think the dark green is a forest green, and the light green that I like to use is called Fresh Foliage. Just gonna dab that a little. Okay, start with the flat. So I'm kind of starting in the middle of the leaf. That one came nice. Now I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to work this way. All right, my branch kind of got lost. So I'm just going to connect my branch a little bit. Now, let me take the pattern off there so you can see it a little clearer without the pattern, to see what the leaves look like. So that's what it looks like right now. Now, if I thought, that it was too thin and I want to go over it with a little bit more paint, I would wait for this layer to dry and then go over it with a little bit more paint. Seems to be a spot that got like no paint on it in the back of the leaf. So I would definitely go over that with a little bit more color. But that is, I'm going to put that one down and we're going to move on to something else. Now, the next pattern I want to show you, this is something that I have done. I have done this. It was a photograph. It's based on a photograph that my brother-in-law took. It was a real photograph he took. I forget where, but the way that the sun hit the dunes that day, it was just so gorgeous. The dunes looked very purple brown to me, and the setting sun. So I have taken liberty with his permission, and I've done this as a painting. I've done it on glasses. I've done it on, this is a votive candle. I've done it on a big vase. I don't know. I might have a picture of the big vase somewhere. Yeah, I do. There was the big vase I did. All right. Just different variations of that. So I'm going to show you that. Let me grab a clean towel behind me. Go over my glass. I'm going to use this stemless glass. And I am going to do that entire all right. Just going to take the dry end and dry it off a little bit. Now, I'm not going to go around the entire glass. I'm going to do a small part of it, but here's my sketch. Okay, so I'm going to make my cuts in it, put it in the glass. Tape it down. It helps to kind of get down and look at it straight on, so you know you got your horizon line straight. You don't want a slanted horizon line. All right, take a piece of tape or a couple of pieces of tape so that it doesn't move. Tape it from the inside. By the way, if you had something like a glass dish that you wanted to use for food, you could even paint your design on the opposite side and it would show through. That gives you the opportunity to maybe use a little sparkle. All right, I think my horizon line looks good. All right, so I'm going to start with the sun. Now, similar colors as the lemon, but I'm not going to use the sponge. I'm going to do that a different way. I'm going to take my round brush and I'm going to do it in strokes. I don't know why there's a little random, I don't know if anybody could see that. There's a little random speck of black. I don't know where that came from, but I picked it up. Do another little stroke at the top. So that's my sun. It's just horizontal strokes. I'm gonna wipe this off before I dip it. And then for the water, I'm going to do something similar, only I'm gonna do I have a light blue, a medium like cerulean blue, and then a cobalt blue. And I'm going to do strokes again, but I'm going to do it as if it was like little waves. Right? I'm going to kind of use the side of my brush. I'm going to alternate the colors. I'm going to take a little bit of warm white. And I'm going to put a little white in the center of that sun, or on one side of it. To give it a little accent. All right, and then I'm going to do the same in the water for the reflections. Maybe going to take maybe a little of that orange that I had from the flowers. Orange and pink together. Yeah, mix. You can mix these colors too, by the way. I'm gonna go back with my liner and do a couple more strokes of the deep blue. I'm really cleaning off my brush good because I don't want any water mixing in there. All right, now sand. For the sands, I'm going to use my angled brush. And because it's sunset, it's not going to be a really light sand color, but there will be a couple of strokes. I'm going to start with like a medium. I already mixed this color up before. I mixed a, I forgot what brown it was called. It wasn't. Milk chocolate, that's what it was. It was milk chocolate and I mixed it with a little warm white. So this is my sand over here. So I'm just going to kind of make some strokes that way. Okay, that's the dune. I am going to go back and probably put a little bit of purple or magenta in there too. I'm taking some warm white now, and I'm mixing it right at the top with a little bit more of that chocolate brown. And for the sand down here, I'm going to do bigger strokes. But it's going to be a little lighter. I'm kind of mixing the colors as I go along, as I see it. I like the waviness of the strokes like this. It works nicely for sand. I mean, you could also, if you wanted to, you can do the sand with the sponges too. I like the streaks. I'm gonna take my round brush and just define the edge a little bit with a little bit of brightness. All that warm white. And a little bit more blue behind it. And I could even, I had in my drawing, I had a little tiny starfish that I wanted to stick in there. I don't know if it'll show up. I'd have to give it a little shadow. There, got a little starfish in there. Adding a little bit more magenta in there. Just going to extend that a little bit past that sand. Didn't go very far. All right, now I'm going to take out my sketch because I can't really see behind what I painted where my seagrass is. I'm going to also define my sun a little bit better. Maybe I'll give it a little outline. I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to take the lemon yellow on the other side.
Laura,
Yes.
the paint in your palette starting to thicken it all.
You know, some of my colors were thickening before I put them in there because they were older. and I suck them in there anyway, and I figured I could just take a little bit of it like that. That orangey yellow is really thick, so I'm using very little of that. Some of the green, the dark green is a little thick. It's best to use them fresh, honestly.
Yeah.
But
You've had them out there, for acrylics, which is essentially what they are.
yeah,
Oil, most
Well,
acrylics,
not
I know of it to be,
they're not drying. I mean, you could say they're not going to dry to the touch for a while. I think the amount of it that you put on there, I mean, if you don't want to waste paint too, honestly, you don't use a lot of it. You could start with a tiny little squirt, like say the size of a chocolate chip. And if that dries out, then you scrub another little chocolate chip. So you're not wasting a lot. I actually, some of them were so thick when I took them out, like all of these greens were so thick in my jars because the jars are old, that I actually had to scoop it out with a palette knife. So it was hard to like limit how much I had, but it's still usable in there, but it's getting to the point where I should definitely replace them.
When you paint on the glass, does it wear better or make a difference as to how thick you put it on? For instance, if you make it fairly thick in one area of it cut, is that likely to like be pushed off, you might say, or it will stay
If
on
it's
more than
too
a very thin coat?
Yeah, that's a good question, because if it's too thick, it might more easily peel off and not fuse well to the glass. So you don't want to go really thick on it. I mean, I think that the same might hold, well, no, I don't know if the same holds for acrylics, but it's just, if it's sticking out, it could just like get water underneath it possibly and pop
When
off.
when I paint with acrylics, and I have just put it doing a quick job with on a plate or something temporarily, the things, and I let it dry for whatever reason, the things that are thick come off very easy, which is good for
Yes.
my purposes. But the things that are very thin, I really have to scrub because they somehow or other seem to, even without baking or anything, they seem to adhere, a little too
Right,
easy.
exactly. Like when you're cleaning up, like if I was to clean this palette, I can just let this dry and pop that paint right out. We all know how easily acrylic paint pops out of a plastic palette. But yes, you're right. If it was really thin, I might have to scrub it. It wouldn't come off so easily. So the same kind of holds. I'm going to try and do some of the, I'm going to mix a little paint because, like I said, my greens are getting really thick. So I'm mixing in a little of that bright yellow, which was fresher. And I'm going to do a couple of bits of grass. I could even, if I wanted to, I could do the grass in brown. We all know seagrass is often on the browner side. All right, so I'm just kind of starting off. I'm using the liner, and I'm starting off, kind of close to the surface, and then just pulling up. Now, I'm kind of in a hurry to do this. Normally, I would wait for the other paints to dry a little bit more. I could even try and do like a little cattail on the end. I like what you get when you mix that foliage green with a little bit of brown. put the little dots for cattails at the end. But, you know, that's kind of basically it. You know, I would maybe do a little bit more to define the sand at the bottom. I can even go in and sponge a little bit in there. My sponges are both floating in my water right now. And like the sand that's further away on the beach, away from the dune, I can kind of dab it with this. I'm gonna take some the deeper brown. I'm just kind of mixing the colors in the area in between. I mixed a little deeper brown with a little purple. Kind of like the way that looks.
Were there any issues baking the ornaments?
You know, honestly, I don't know if those were baked. Because you're not washing ornaments,
True. So that
they don't really have to be baked. If you let this paint dry for, you know, a week, say, it's not coming off. I mean, you can wipe this with water and it won't come off. Also, I could have baked it and then brushed on a little sparkle after the fact, but you know, as we know, it's glass. These things just come right off.
Right.
Other than that, it's all glass. If you want to be on the safe side and make sure it fuses, you can bake them. I would, you know, kind of stand them in a dish or something. You know, just put them in something you didn't mind getting, you know, a little, maybe like a cupcake tray so they don't roll around.
Or upside down.
Well, yeah, that's true too, because it is flat on that end, but you know, you've got, that would probably go right through the, I mean, you do it on a flat tray, but you
Right.
can't do it on, you know, the,
Yeah, no.
If you're doing it in the oven and you put them on something, do you let them cool in the oven before, or can you take?
oh, yes, I didn't mention that, and thank you for bringing that up. So, and by all means, if you're going to do this, read the directions on the bottle. But you have to put the glasses in a cool oven. Okay, not, you know, just touching one surface. Don't have them like wedged in. Don't have them touching each other. That would be bad, because then, you know, some of the paint might fuse to another one and you'll have them stuck together. So put them in a cool oven, close the door, set the temperature, set it for 30 minutes, but then don't open it. Just let it cool down. It'll take a couple of hours. So you have to have, you know, a few hours where you don't need your oven, and let it completely cool before you take them out, because they can crack, and it needs kind of a slow time to to dry and to completely finish the baking process. So yeah, you might find that you have at the bottom a couple of like, I don't even know how it happens. I can't explain it, but there'll sometimes be a couple of like little rings at the bottom that look like some of the paint dripped down, but you won't see any dripped paint. It's almost like it gets in the air, but you can just clean that off with alcohol. It's so thin. So, you just have to clean them off at the end. But that's it.
Well, you've made us think of lemonade and tequila. Tequila
I love
sunrise.
doing
I saw those
martinis.
sunrise glasses and I'm saying tequila.
This one is my martini glass with olive branches on it. So I actually use a lot of these. This one I don't put in my dishwasher just because it's too tall. These are a little shorter. You see how that's just a little bit higher and it gets stuck. That's what I like about these. This glass I couldn't put in my dishwasher because I don't have a high enough top. It has to be top rack. And I don't know if anyone puts their glasses in sideways. I don't like to do that because then it puddles up and stains, and then you have these like weird soapy water stains inside. I've seen people do it with tall glasses in their dishwasher in the top. I don't like doing it. So I would, the tall ones I would just wash by hand anyway. But again, things like candlesticks and ornaments, if you don't want to bake them, it will dry and be permanent, as do most acrylic paints. And, you don't really have to worry about it. But if it's just a matter of making it dishwasher safe, that you bake it. It does make it more permanent. It fuses it to the glass. The ornaments, they're not going to get water on them. They're not, so I don't think you have to worry about them. I have also done ceramics. So this is, these are some mugs that I did with like a beachy scene. You can use white ceramics. I've done it successfully, but you have to be careful and you never know. It's hit or miss because I bought some mugs that just said they were ceramic, and I don't know if it was the glaze that they were finished with. I mean, I wiped them with alcohol and everything, but the paint ended up coming off later on very easily in the dishwasher. It didn't fuse as well, but I've had some ceramics that did work well and were able to wash. So on ceramics, I recommend hand washing, unfortunately, because it's hit or miss.
Like you said, probably the glaze that gets used.
Yeah, it's probably because they're already glazed with something.
Yeah.
And it might be, something that was, didn't work with this paint and kind of rejected it. But the glass is always successful. I've never had a problem with the glass fusing.
They are beautiful. Thank you very much. I'm gonna.
You are very welcome. I
Anybody
hope
have
you
any
all
questions before I
try-
stop the recording?
I was wondering how you got into this. I've seen these things at craft shows.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know what possessed me to start, honestly, because it was a while back and I was doing a lot of craft shows. I would go, to the beach shows. I was down in, Bradley Beach and here and there, and I would do like little church shows. And I did a couple that were like street fairs. And I sold pieces, but I didn't make enough money to really make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
So if I sold 4 glasses at $15, I made $60 for the day, and it probably cost me $100 to be in the show. And maybe I sold a few
Yeah.
prints of my artwork, or,
Yeah.
like I would be pretty much coming out even at these shows.
Yeah.
I do have some of the glasses that I have left. I still have on Etsy.
Ah, so
Uh,
how is Etsy? Does it work for you?
yeah, I mean, again, it's random.
Yeah.
I just sold a glass 2 weeks ago, and the woman ordered it on a Tuesday and said it was, mind you, the glass was already made. I had it. It was a pair of glasses actually with sailboats on them. And she wanted them, she had to have them for a party she was going to on Friday.
Whoa.
And I said, well, I can mail it right away. I will pack it and mail it today, but I can't guarantee the post office is going to have it there. And she was like very upset with me. I'm like, well, why didn't you order it last week?
Yeah.
Especially these days.
My daughter loves horses, and she ordered, I don't know on what site, but she ordered us, I think, a set of 6 glasses, and they had like stylized horses. Very
Uh-huh.